I think that we have the ability with our organization to change this entire industry.
Hello and welcome to the New Rules of Work, a podcast from the Muse where we explore the changing landscape of work. Today, I'm really excited to welcome Dr. Zaynab Satchu to the show. Zay is the co-founder and Chief Veterinary Officer at BondVet, which describes itself as a new kind of vet clinic. What does that mean? Well, we're going to take you inside. But first, Zay, welcome to the New Rules of Work.
Thank you so much for having me, Kathryn.
I'm really excited to dig in today. I feel like we've got a ton of stuff to cover. But first, for people who are really intrigued by my intro, I want to start by asking, what is a new kind of vet clinic?
Absolutely. Great question. One of the things that we set out to do when we first started thinking around what does an innovative, novel veterinary clinic environment look like is describing to ourselves what is the current clinic environment lacking. And it's interesting because the current clinic space is not actually lacking a lot. We're not thinking about ourselves as coming into an industry and disrupting the whole space. That's not our end goal. What we thought through is let's take an industry where people are extremely passionate about what they do, where they love where they work, and it is very cool to work in a clinic environment, and let's elevate it. Let's create something novel and fun and fantastic and something that pushes the industry forward. That's how we think about ourselves.
I love that. And I want to ask you more in a bit about that idea of a differentiated experience. But first, I guess I'm really interested in maybe starting with your personal career path, because my guess is a lot of people listening either wanted to be a vet when they were a kid or currently personally harbor dreams of being a vet. And so when did you know that you wanted to be a vet, and what were your early career experiences like?
I started as a very eager 15-year-old kid, loving animals as most young children do, thinking to myself, you know, if I'm going to do something for the rest of my life, what's something that will bring me joy and passion every single day? And so this was a conversation I remember having with my parents. It was something that my mom actually pushed me to do, explore a local vet clinic environment. I went in, I was a volunteer, and my very first job for the course of the 2 weeks of December holidays, I still remember exactly where I was, how I used to get there. I picked up poop. That was my very, very first thing that I did in a vet clinic environment. I went in at 6 a.m., I went in at noon, I went in at 6 p.m., and I picked up feces off of the ground on the outside terrace. It was just
starting at the top.
I think you have to. I think it's actually been really instrumental in my own growth and seeing the ins and outs of any vet clinic space, because it's very similar across the board. But started there, saw different clinic environments, experiences, met different kinds of people, saw the operations of spaces that were wildlife centers. Some of them were falcon hospitals, some of them were equine facilities, some of them were big ER hospitals. And so I got the full array of experiences, and I've probably to this day been in about 15 to 20 different clinic environments, both good and bad. And so that's how I started my journey, exploring what the different spaces looked like, finding passion and finding something that I love to do. I went off to vet school in Ontario at the Ontario Veterinary College, graduated, worked in Boston for 3 years as an associate vet there, and then came out of that thinking I wanted to do something different. I wanted to create something innovative, and found myself in the role that I am in now.
And so how did that transition, or how did that lead to wanting to start your own company in the space?
It's a good question. I mentioned it a little earlier. I saw a lot over the 20 different environments that I had been in. Some was fantastic. I mentioned earlier how passionate people are about being in clinic environments and how people love working with animals, putting their hands on them, seeing animals feel better, right? They're so innocent. They come in not being able to tell you what's wrong. You discover the issue and you can treat for it. Nothing feels better than being able to in that moment fix this little creature who can't tell you what's going on.
And can't do that for themselves.
They cannot do that for themselves, exactly. It felt really great. And then the flip side of that was these organizations are often mom and pop, small environments. Sometimes it is, a veterinarian and a clinic manager, husband-wife duo. Sometimes it feels a little bit more corporate and organized, but essentially what it boils down to is there is a lack of structure, there is a lack of support, there is a lack of operational efficiency. Technology seems to be something that a lot of clinic environments are afraid of. Change is something that people are fearful of. And seeing this again and again in such a repetitive fashion, I knew that I wanted to be a part of something different and change that for the industry and at least for myself.
Yeah, and I think this is often the case, right, in career paths where people are drawn to them because of a strong mission and this, as you said, this incredible ability to help animals and to help the humans who love them. And yet sometimes some of the most mission-oriented industries in the world can be really challenging places to work.
That was exactly the case. People were finding gratification in their day-to-day, but not seeking or they weren't able to find the fulfillment that they were seeking still, even though they were doing such fantastic things.
Yeah, and I think, I worked in global health and a few different nonprofits before I get into technology and before I started the Muse. And it was really interesting because some of the organizations that I worked for really valued their employees and their team and their mental well-being, their work-life balance, and others didn't. I think sometimes there are organizations where it's like, well, the work is so important that as employees or as individuals, you're supposed to just kind of put all of your own personal needs and desires secondary. And so I loved, as I've learned about some of what it sounds like you're doing, that you really think about how to create a business that's great for the employees as well as pet owners and animals.
It's so funny that you say it in that way because it's so true. And I think that maybe 50 years ago, that was the mentality where people thought business first, finances first, let's get in and get out, customers first, right? The transaction is the most important piece. And we're realizing more and more now, especially as the world is turning to be more customer service focused and oriented, that the most magic happens when the people that work in a space feel good about where they work. People that are upset or people that are depleted from their day to day and not getting what they need to go home after a good day's work and say, hey, that was a good one. I had a good day. And we're not saying that everyone needs to have 10 out of 10 days consistently. That's not realistic. But you shouldn't leave work thinking, I'm missing something. I'm, complaining about this thing that shouldn't exist, that I've been complaining about consistently, that no one seems to see or hear when I say it. That's not a good work environment. And then translation of that is people don't feel happy when they're interacting with those individuals.
Yeah, I think you've really hit on it, is that the core of customer service, the core of building relationships with your customers is ensuring that you're taking good enough care of your employees that they can take care of others. And so when you're thinking about how you've built BonVet, you've talked about building a future-facing company. So what does that look like for you compared to, potentially a more traditional vet clinic?
So I like to categorize essentially what we do differently threefold. First, and I think most importantly, we spoke about this already, but team culture. So a good workplace culture, a good environment where people feel happy. And not to say that, we run around holding hands, singing Kumbaya all the time, but we definitely look after our team, encourage communication, encourage people to feel like they have a voice, because they do, because there's so many good ideas that stem from people that aren't always, leading the organization. I think some of the best ideas that I've had for improvement of facilities have been at kennel attendant or care coordinator reception roles, where that is where people are able to see the effects of the day-to-day on not only the team, but the pets and the clients. So I think from a team culture and workplace environment, we're really trying to innovate here. We're really trying to push people to think outside of what they are used to working around. So people aren't used to communicating, too bad. You have to communicate. People aren't used to speaking in public settings. We're going to make sure that you do. The more uncomfortable you feel as it relates to growth, that's a good thing. And so we encourage that. And by ways of that, I think people are receptive and they feel happier in their workplace environments. The second piece that differentiates us is from a design perspective. We were very thoughtful around how to create these brick and mortar facilities. We have blank rooms, blank canvases when we walk into the space, and so we could design anything. And now we have a really, really good idea and general footprint of what our facilities are going to look like. But some of the things that we did, for instance, we're looking at the friction coefficient of the floor. When an older greyhound walks in on a day like today where it's snowy or rainy outside, you want them to feel comfortable gripping the floor. Tile floors aren't going to cut it. What about the temperature of the lighting? How can we create warmth in the space so when dogs and cats come in, it doesn't feel like a medical sterile facility?
Yeah,
they don't want that.
Exactly. They feel like it's somewhere that they can be comfortable.
Absolutely. Similar to that, the color of the walls. So these are all things from a design perspective we thought about. How big does a room need to be to allow for 3 people to comfortably fit? And usually when there's a pet, that accounts for an extra 2 people, right? Because the pet's moving about in the whole room as well. So those are the kinds of things we thought through from a design.
Yeah, and I love it because, a big piece of, one of the things I've seen as I've watched the talent and HR industry as the Muse has grown over the past 8 years is that a lot of companies went from thinking about their offices as just a place where they're parking their employees to get work done towards realizing that the way you feel when you step into work every day matters for an employee. And I think it's so thoughtful to think about that both for the people who work with you, but also the the animals that are at kind of the heart of the business.
And I felt that today walking into the Muse facility here. The first thing out of my mouth today was, "Wow, it's so bright in here," and the comments around it gets kind of warm. It's so nice to be able to have windows and daylight on your day-to-day. I think it's expensive real estate, especially in New York City, but it's worth it because your team is happier, they function better, people are brighter in their day.
Yeah, and it's funny, I personally went on a lot of office visits before we moved into this building because initially I wanted to stay down in Flatiron, which is, a neighborhood a little bit further south that was at the time much more quote unquote hip, but most of the real estate that was in our price range was dark. It was terrible. I mean, I looked at offices with bars on the windows. In fact, one of our old Muse offices had bars on the windows, and in the back at least, because it was all that we could afford at the time. But when we were looking to upgrade, I really put a lot of care and attention into what the physical environment would look like because, people are spending 40 plus, in some cases way more than 40 hours a week here. And I think it is really thoughtful to think about designing the spaces for the people and the animals that will be in it, and creating an environment that really supports the work that you're trying to do.
Thank you for saying that. We think so too. Design has been a heavy focus over the last year. Now we're moving into a stage where technology and the operations of the space is a big topic of conversation. So how can we utilize computers to do the work or the mundane tasks of a human being to allow for more free time and less stress on the people that work in the space? Or how can we utilize technology to allow for that communication to be bridged between when someone has left our facility with their pet and then the next time they return? All of their records, let them be the owners of everything that they need to know so that it does not have to be a phone call to the vet clinic to get the vaccination certificate so that you can travel on the plane because you're flying out today, you're busy packing. Nobody wants to go through that.
Yeah, it's like thinking 1, 2, 3 steps ahead for your customers. I love that. And then I want to ask, before we sort of move on, I want to go back to something you said about the way that you think about taking care of your employees, because I think that, frankly, a lot of us work in industries or in jobs where burnout is a risk. And I think that in particular, because like you said, an animal can't necessarily tell you what's going on. And sometimes in the course of running a vet, I'm sure you have to deal with some really emotionally grueling and challenging experiences. So how are you thinking about sort of mental health and burnout and supporting your employee bases with BonVet?
I wish I could say that it was just one, quick, easy fix. Maybe it costs a lot, but it's doable and it's just done. It's really not. There are so many layers and so many tiers to how we think about making sure that we have a space where people function really well in that environment because, as you mentioned, the risk of burnout is real. The suicide rate in this industry is ridiculously high, contributed, I think, for sure by factors related to the fact that we're euthanizing or the fact that we're seeing cases that come in that, are very far gone by the time we see them, or we just can't do anything. Our hands are tied. The people that come into this space have big student loans to pay back. There's a lot around what causes that high suicide rate, and our viewpoint is whatever we can do to create a space with the in-clinic environment that sets expectations appropriately for our team to recover from the big hurdles that we go through day to day. That's a win in our books. Some of the stuff that we do is very basic. This concept of communication is something that I think it's understated how important good communication is to good, healthy workplace environments. People tend to think of good communication as, we come in, we chat, I'll talk to you about your child. I know that your kid has a big soccer game today and that's the extent of it. It's not. I think good communication is making sure people are understanding of what's going on, what the day-to-day looks like, checking in with them every 2 weeks, making sure that we have team meetings once a week, making sure that our vets feel on board and can be leaders of the space when a manager or myself, I can't be there, making sure that we're empowering the right people to be able to take on roles that essentially help them on their growth as well, but creating a safe space of communication is vital, I think, to this piece.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think from our conversation earlier, it sounds like you also support your team with, mental health support. I think I'm really excited to see more companies starting to pay attention to that aspect of employee well-being, because I think it's not just about providing, a salary and a physical location and good policies for your employees, although those are very important, but also really understanding how you can support them in some of the more difficult aspects of the job.
Absolutely. There's such a faux pas when talking about mental health for some reason, especially when it comes to therapy and being able to have these objective conversations with counselors. One thing that our company decided to enlist in is this program that allows every single one of our team members to get 5 therapy sessions. I believe they're done either on the phone or through chat, video chat. It's just a really nice way to tell people this is not faux pas, it should not be faux pas. I encourage everyone to utilize it. We have them, we've already paid for them. Go ahead. And it doesn't have to be big things, right? I think that's the other big thing. People think that you have to wait until you're at your breaking point to reach out for help. And one of the big things in our organization is that you should not. I
love that. Yeah, it's something that I've tried to both encourage and model here at the Muse. Earlier this year, I went through something really difficult personally, and I ended up talking about it at an all hands because I wanted people to recognize that it's okay to share, but also that your colleagues and your coworkers can support you. And I love that you're building that into the fabric of the company. I think that's really really thoughtful.
Good on you for knowing that you should do that, right? Like, a lot of leaders don't. A lot of leaders don't understand that showcasing vulnerability actually makes an organization stronger. Showing people that I will take the first step and stab and go ahead and show to everyone else that this is an okay thing to feel and do and experience. You don't have to be rocks. I think 50 years ago, that was just the assumption. You have to be a rock. You have to be this cold, hard, ruler, dictator almost. But that's not the day and age we live in. People are okay with hearing about the complexities of day to day. It makes them connect with their leaders more.
Yeah, I love that. And I think you're right that we're in this interesting transition time because on one hand, all of us, individuals and businesses, are active online, on social media, which tends towards or can be, a very rosy picture of things, and yet the reality of life is so much harder. It's one of the reasons I was so excited to talk to you is that I think this idea of, taking a career that has both some of probably the most rewarding and meaningful and incredible aspects in helping animals, but also, involves dealing with difficult things, and how do you build an organization that supports the employees in both of those things, I think is really powerful. When you think ahead to the future of BonVet, what are you excited about?
One of the things that I say again and again, and I really do mean it, is that I think that we have the ability with our organization to change this entire industry. Sometimes I feel like I'm saying things and I sound like a broken record, but I really think we have the ability to do so with the right people. That I think we're starting on a great front right now. We have people that are enthusiastic and ambitious about what we're trying to do. But more than that, what will inevitably happen is the clinic environments that exist around us will start to see that we're doing things a little bit differently. One by one, they'll start to notice that we have just a little different, just something small, a different practice that we do one way versus another, and people are responding positively to it. What will inevitably happen is these small clinic environments will also adopt some of these practices, and I do think that that is how you change an entire industry and push away from what they know is true and towards something in the future.
I love that. And I love that, it's funny, I was just thinking about something similar the other day, which is when I started the Muse, most companies' career sites were just a list of jobs. Literally, there was not even a picture. And slowly over time, I think by trying to create a platform that said, hey, job seekers deserve to know more about what your company is like, more about your employee experience, your culture. Not only have we obviously been able to build a business, but exactly as you said, other job sites, other company career pages, people have started to recognize some of the values and the principles behind the inspiration for the business. And I think it can have such a powerful impact, and absolutely makes sense with what you're doing, that, if someone is running more of a traditional or a legacy or an old school clinic, this provides a really powerful example for them of what their practice could look like. And so I think it's really exciting both to think about all the growth that I'm sure you all will see, and the power to have, even more positive changes outside of that.
And I want to reiterate, right? The industry is not broken. It's not somewhere where we have people that are that hate what they do, and everywhere you look it's bad, bad, bad. A lot of the time what they just don't see is how much good can exist if they just implement things a little bit differently. So, my 20-year goal is to see the rate of suicide decrease in the vet space. It's 20 years out because I do think that's how long it'll take to shift people's thinking and ideologies, and for this new group of individuals to come in and recognize, hey, hang on, it's my work. It doesn't have to also be me. I don't have to take this home every single day. It's work in progress. I don't think we're a 10 out of 10 yet on all the different endeavors we've taken on, but we're working there, and I think that's the most important piece.
Well, I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for joining. And if someone is listening and they want to learn more, or they want to check out BondVet, they want to follow you, where should people go for more information?
So we have our website, which is www.bondvet.com, and then our Instagram handle is @BondVetClinic. We have a few fun events coming up every month. We have a bunch of fun events, so we'd love to have a turnout. Anyone that wants to join, please reach out.
Amazing. And as we were just joking about when we were setting up for this podcast, I think I might need to show up for the adoption event in January, because I follow about 17 animal rescue accounts on Instagram, and I am dying to adopt a pet and then maybe become a customer.
Fantastic. If you come, I'll make sure you won't leave empty-handed.
Oh my goodness, that's dangerous and awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming. I really enjoyed it. It was fantastic to have you on.
Thank you so much for having me.
And for the rest of you, thank you so much for listening. This was The New Rules of Work.
The Muse is the best place to research companies and careers. More than 75 million people each year trust the Muse to help them win at work, from finding a job to building the skills to help them grow and advance. Organizations use our platform to attract and hire talent by providing an authentic look at company culture, workplace, and values through the stories of their employees.
You've been listening to The New Rules of Work. To learn more about this episode and to research companies and jobs, visit themuse.com. To ensure you never miss an episode, subscribe to the show in your favorite podcast player. If you have any questions for The Muse or for host Kathryn Minshew, feel free to reach out to press@themuse.com. Thank you for listening. Until next time.